It is an honor to stand here before you today, an open-side opposition in this most consequential of debates. However, before I do so, I wish to thank our steadfast president for generously conferring this opportunity on me tonight. Harold Wilson is often attributed as saying that a week is a long time in politics. And if that is true, one must say that maintaining a grasp on the union presidency for 6 weeks is a long time indeed. A fact which I see is warmly welcomed by most in this chamber, if not all, save for the grating chagrin of a few. Now, with that in mind, I wish to commend the President, his officers, and all members of this committee for bringing together a truly exceptional term card. Pulling together as one has gotten the union far indeed. Now, turning to the debate at hand, I wish to say emphatically that we should not regret, for a moment, the demise of the Ottoman Empire here in this House. Given that I have the good fortune of being backed up by a diverse range of specialists on the opposition benches, and until one late addition to the proposition team thought we held a numerical advantage, I will advance a narrow case that we should not regret the demise of any empire, and specifically not the Ottoman Empire, as it was constituted in the early years of the 20th century. Empire, definitionally, is a form of government which is rooted in a non-consensual relationship between government and the governed, institutional prejudice and the wielding of armed force. The Ottoman Empire, at its demise, embodied these values in the harmful extreme. However, before I expand my case, the mantle of responsibility falls on me to introduce side proposition, beginning with their opening speaker, Ege Havlucu. He's an erudite, intelligent, and charismatic young man, and he's clearly too kind because he went a bit light on the roasting of our side. So I promise I'm not a bad person for what follows next. Indeed, he is a part of a larger set of Turkish members who seek to revolutionize and modernize this aged institution. These young Turks, as some describe them, wield great influence in the union, but sadly, Ege does not rank as their leader. That title is held by another member here in this chamber here tonight. I wonder who it might be. Side proposition's next speaker is Aisha Osmanoglu, a member of the former Ottoman imperial family and a descendant of among the last ruling sultans. Her utter surprise at my invitation, yes, my invitation, to speak tonight perhaps illustrates the fading influence of her family more clearly than anything else. We then have Professor Carter Finlay, a distinguished professor from Ohio State University and an expert on the Ottoman Empire and the Islamic world more generally. However, he comes from the south of the United States, so he might know a thing or two about oppression. And the final speaker is a surprise to me, and I will save himself to introduce himself when he comes and speaks in a moment. Now, in all seriousness, and on behalf of all the members of this House, we are deeply grateful for everyone's participation in this debate here tonight. Mr. President, these are your guests, and they are most welcome. Now, to illustrate my case, and I'm going to be a fraction indulgent here, I wish to explain a bit about my personal history. Because while I expect many in this chamber to borrow the expression of a great Australian politician, believe I'm the newest descendant in a long line of people for whom the greatest life challenge they have faced was finding a sliced lemon for their gin and tonic, that is not in fact true. My mother was raised behind the Iron Curtain in then Eastern Czechoslovakia, an area which was famously described in Timothy Snyder's book as Europe's Bloodlands. My mother lived in a regime on the outer periphery of empire where living standards were low, freedom of expression was limited, and dissent was routinely crushed. I say this not because I am unique, but because I know I am among peers. Drawn from around the world, I know many in this chamber have directly felt the cold, metallic fist of imperial force, or have inherited that experience from their near and dear family. For us to regret the demise of any empire should be anathema to us. While we have already heard, and will doubtless continue to hear, that the Ottoman Empire at its best was a pluralist society which spearheaded many scientific and cultural innovations, what we cannot lose sight of in this debate is that it was an empire, and we should always reject empire. Empire, first and foremost, sees a dominant metropole subjugate its outer periphery. This is a political arrangement which is non-consensual at its core. To argue that the Ottoman Empire is an exception to this rule would be manifestly misleading. As nationalism was increasingly felt in the hearts of people around the world in the 19th and then 20th centuries, imperial structures were tested. The Ottoman Empire was revealed as a rickety polity, held together through coercion, not persuasion or choice. Why else would the Serbian, Greek, and Romanian peoples, followed soon thereafter by other peoples of the region, choose bloody wars of independence over continued subservience? Moreover, in resisting these independence movements, the Ottoman Empire boldly revealed itself as a subjugator, committed to perpetuating a fundamentally unequal political arrangement. The sick man of Europe was so because it did not command the actual loyalty of its people. It was a house divided, and its demise was inevitable. Its demise was inevitable because the concept of national self-determination, first proposed by President Woodrow Wilson at Versailles amid the ruins of imperial hubris and countless millions of dead and maimed, has become so integral to our understanding of the world. Our belief in the inherent virtue of national self-determination is informed by his thinking, which arose within this milieu of bubbling nationalism. And it is at the foundation of why we see campaigns and activism for subjugated peoples to this day. It is because we understand that they are being denied a fundamental right. For us to regret the demise of the Ottoman Empire would mean being for non-consensual political structures, institutional prejudice, the wielding of armed force as a political tool, and denying peoples the world over their right to national self-determination. We should also, specifically, not regret the demise of the Ottoman Empire at the time of its end. I said earlier that it embodied harmful values in the extreme. That almost certainly does not go far enough, and indeed, it is hard to capture with words such depravity. Now, for those who don't know, which should be very few in this room given the introduction, I am a historian by training, and as is my wont, I did some research before this debate. I'll now read a brief excerpt from Talat Pasha, Ottoman Minister of the Interior from 1913 to 1918. He is, in the judgment of the vast swathe of historical opinion, the primary architect of the Armenian genocide. I quote, "We have been blamed for not making a distinction between guilty and innocent Armenians. To do so was impossible. Because of the nature of things, one who is still innocent today could be guilty tomorrow. Our actions were determined by historical necessity." Words alone struggle to condemn this view. Yet this view constituted imperial policy, and like other empires, was carried out with brutal efficiency. The Ottoman Empire at its end had metastasized into a truly dark regime. With that, and appreciating that brevity is the soul of wit, I rest my case and urge all members to oppose the motion. Thank you.